Welcome back to the Clara CFO Group channel. Today I have some news that I'm not sure people are going to want to hear, but my commitment to you is that I'm here to bring you the information you need to know. I'm here to try to keep you guys on the right side of the law. I'm trying to help you guys achieve maximum forgiveness on your PPP loans and help you figure out what you need to do to achieve financial success. Now, one of the things that I think is involved in that is helping you keep up to date on rules and also anything that might affect your potential forgiveness. And so this is an SBA procedural notice that we're talking about today because I think it's super duper important that you guys understand the implications of this procedural notice, okay? So I don't really want to tell you this. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news. This is going to upset some people. I'm really sorry. It's not my rule. I didn't write it. I'm just the messenger. But what I don't want is I don't want you guys going and thinking you can get full forgiveness where maybe this applies to you and you're not going to achieve full forgiveness because of this notice and this SBA notice. So I'm just going to preface with that and tell you what's going on. So this procedural notice was made effective January 15th of 2021, and the title is Paycheck Protection Program Excess Loan Amount Errors. So when I saw this, I was like, errors happened all the time. Almost every person I talked to got the wrong loan amount to begin with. When we were first applying for PPP loans, there was so much bad information that was going out there, especially if you got a PPP loan in the first draw and you were doing this in April or May to begin with. So many people got the wrong information from their banks or even the payroll providers who were providing reports. Some of those reports were wrong. So people were applying for these loans and essentially getting the wrong amount of the PPP loans. So this procedural notice addresses this. Unfortunately, it is saying, and fortunately or unfortunately, I think there's two sides of it. One thing is that it's helping everybody be on the same page, that somebody who got an error is not getting a benefit from having an error. So the people who did it right are good, and then the people who did it wrong are kind of going to be adjusted to however it should have been if they got the right amount, okay? So this procedural notice is all about explaining different types of errors and what to do if there is an error. So I will explain a couple of things that I saw on the regular basis. So one is that people were told by their banks and other people that they could include independent contractor wages in their payroll costs. Not true. So they applied and got way more money than they needed. Another thing that's happened is that people did not back out any excess wages over $100,000 for highly compensated employees. And so they got way too much money because of that. And then the third thing that happened often was that the banks just weren't really looking at the numbers, weren't verifying things, or they didn't know, and people just flat out applied for the wrong amount of money. All of these factors are essentially creating incorrect loan amounts. And what this procedural notice is saying is that anything that's in excess of what you should have gotten is not forgivable. I'm going to let that sink in for a second because I think this is really important. Anything in excess of what you should have gotten doing the calculation correctly is not forgivable. So I'm just going to read straight from this because I think it's kind of important. A borrower may not receive loan forgiveness for any amount that exceeds the correct maximum loan amount permitted by the statute for that borrower. So what they're asking the banks to do is to go back and recalculate what the loan should have been. And then when you're applying for forgiveness, if you got excess over what it should have been, you can only get forgiven up to what your maximum should have been. And they're also not really giving a lot of recourse for those borrowers that applied for the wrong loan amount, but it was way too small, because that happened a lot too, where people used the wrong information and just didn't get as large of a loan as they could have. So this is kind of a really important procedural notice, unless something happens where other guidance comes out and overrides this. I think we're stuck with it. And the fact that they put this out very specifically, and this is from the SBA, this is not from the IRS or anybody else. They're basically saying this is how we want this program to be administered. This is how we want it to effectively be calculated. So, and they even say, this is interesting to me, is that even if your loan has already been forgiven and you got too much money, they still have the right to come back, recalculate your loan, and ask for that money back. So this is all comes down to, like, you need to know how much you should have gotten, and you need to know how much you can get forgiven, okay? If you think you got too much money under the PPP, please do these calculations and make sure you are aware, because I don't want this to be a surprise for you. The next thing is, what is the effect on that excess amount? And what does it mean? What do you do if you did get an excess? So they're saying if it was the borrower's error made in good faith, it wasn't fraud, you weren't trying to, misuse the system. If it was made in good faith and it was just an accident, you got the wrong loan amount, you won't be able to be forgiven for that excess amount, but you can still begin repaying it as if it's a normal PPP loan. So you can still keep the money, but you still have to repay it over time under the terms of the loan. Now, if it was an error made by the lender, and if they made a really gross error of not looking at your paperwork, not doing their due diligence at all, what that means is that you will actually lose the SBA guarantee on that excess amount of the loan. If it was the borrower error, you still have the SBA guarantee, no problem. But if the lender screwed up, then you lose the SBA guarantee on the loan. And that, and I mean, it's kind of, I guess the banks are out on it. So, because if you didn't pay it back as a borrower, if you didn't pay it back, ultimately it doesn't look good on you, but also, like, the banks are kind of out on that money, and it's not guaranteed by the SBA. Okay. So not a good situation all around. So if you think you have excess, it's good to go ahead and figure that out right now, so you will understand that. And if you don't get full forgiveness, you'll know why. And you can kind of plan for paying back that extra loan amount. So, I mean, this is what it is. I'm sorry, you guys. What is the effect of the excess loan amount error on the borrower's obligation? If the lender or SBA, as applicable, determines a borrower is ineligible for any portion of this loan amount, forgiveness will be denied for the ineligible portion, and the borrower must begin making payments on the remaining loan amount. Any unforgiven loan amount remains the obligations of the borrower, even if the borrower was ineligible to receive some or all of the loan. That is the guidance. I will link this guidance directly in the description box below so you can see it, read it, and make sure you understand it fully as well. I always recommend reading the guidance wherever you can, even if it's confusing. Use these videos to help you be aware, and then also go and read the guidance, because it's good for you to see exactly how it's written as well. All right, so that is the news for the day. I hope it is helpful to you, even if it's not the news you wanted to hear. But please put any comments and questions in the comment section below. And please make sure you also share this information with anybody who you know might have the wrong PPP loan amount. This is a good one to share with them so that they are aware as well. All right, well, thanks so much for watching and watching to the end. I really appreciate it. Talk to you soon.